3. She's actually in Atlanta right now for a Filk music convention, FILK, in case you didn't know what that is. It's just basically, the way I explain it is Kumbaya for Geeks, which makes sense to a lot of people instead of going through a whole bunch of like dictionary style explanations. It's Kumbaya for Geeks. And I'm here, and I have a backache, so I can't sleep. And so I'm sitting in the bed shivering under blankets because it's below 40 outside today. Tonight, yeah, I guess it would be today. And you're not allowed to turn on the heat in your room. There's a little sign that says that front desk controls the temperature of your room. And so I'm cold. I mean, I could bother the front desk. I could. It's actually nice and warm under the blankets and comfortable when you're sleeping. So when my medicine kicks in, maybe I'll go back to sleep. Depends. I may have to stay up and suffer just because I have to check out soon. But so it's like, yeah, deal breaker. Anyway, but that's not why I'm here. Um, the situation around my hometown and watching everything get torn up, and then going to that town hall meeting and listening to the people decide that the fact that a road easement being built literally on top of some turtle breeding grounds, protected, I believe it's the snapping turtle, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong on that. Could be, and I'm pretty sure it's not an alligator. But anyway, that was no reason to not build the easement. Got me taking a conservation law class because it's clear that if I am going to be the kind of person to turn both all of my properties into nature preserves and to care about what my actions do to my environment and want to be a steward of my land in such a way that I live in harmony with with the things on my property and encourage things to grow while also, living, which means having a couple of chickens, but building things in a way that's not too destructive, et cetera, et cetera. That I needed to know more. And it was clear to me that sitting in that meeting, nobody knew the law. So while I have started taking this class, and it's just this crash course on Coursera, it's an introduction. I have also reached out to federal environmental agencies about what's going on. And recently I just sent, and I was going to keep it a secret because I'm actually genuinely afraid of retaliation if something goes south for the local government around my mom and dad's house. And I grew up around that area, Nassau County, in case you need to know. I'm not going to tell you where in Nassau County, but Nassau County, which is a big county. Uh, it was, corrupt, small town. I mean, I've had a cop pull me over claiming that my blinker didn't work good enough for him type situation. My brother got a ticket for going too slow while driving his moped to go to work. Nobody liked us because of my father. Nobody, uh, I don't really know the complete history with my father, but my father used to tell me tales about how he had knew a guy that pissed off the wrong cop, and so the entire police force proceeded to ticket and citation the poor man into bankruptcy. Um, you know, he often had to go to meetings to defend his property, even though we were in a rural area at the time. Little things like that. I mean, I've had to go to the meetings to defend because somebody complained about my dog, and it wasn't my dog being the problem, type situation. And yeah, 8 months pregnant, having to defend my dad's property over my dog. Yeah. So I grew up looking, under that kind of terrorism. And So going to this meeting, they were nice, they were polite. I'm not putting the people down, but it's clear no one knows the law and that there are some unclear areas. There was a conservation specialist there who presented, hey, look, the overdevelopment completely is destroying the tree canopy. And then one of the people's like, hey, this is going to literally butt onto my backyard, and that is a turtle breeding ground. I stepped up and said, hey, pitcher plants, they're endangered now, in case you didn't know. They've become endangered since I came home, like that's how fastly they went down. They were watched and now they're endangered. Um, the overdevelopment is like from the draining, all the wetlands are literally going away. Um, so I've been taking this course and about 3 weeks in, and what I've learned so far is that everything that's happening is indirect causation. What's happening with the overdevelopment is indirect causation, and it is causing a take of species, many of which are classified under the Endangered Species Act of 1975. Why am I here talking about this now? Uh, because reaching out to the federal agencies, I was told that there was nothing they could do because it's happening on private land. But apparently, and I can't remember what section, I think it's crap, I can't remember if it's section 407, um, that, yeah, the class actually gives you these scenarios, and one scenario they gave us was that there was this person who had a lake on her land that had an endangered minnow, and she drained her lake, or her pond. Would that be, a violation of the Endangered Species Act? And you would think, because these federal agencies are telling me that you're not allowed to mess with anything on private land, that would be a no. But it turns out that's a yes, because the law very specifically states that no person, which is defined as people, state agencies, businesses, basically anything under U.S. jurisdiction, um, is a person. And the law states that no person may take, which can be taking or killing, an endangered protected species. So I've got these federal agencies messaging me and telling me there's nothing that side of the, nothing they can do because it's on private land and this is all a private matter. Or the state is telling me, hey, look, it's out of our hands because this is or no, it isn't the state telling me that. It was the federal. And well, we can't tell states what to do. Meanwhile, there's this federal act that says yes, they can in this matter. Uh, So I just learned that, like, because I'm taking my classes while sitting up here in pain, because I mean I can't sleep and I'm cold, so take my class on. But I mean, apparently there's in section 10 there's some provisions to that may or may not make a pass on the matter. So I suppose if the act were actually getting looked at and the case were like, yeah, no, this is fine. Um, but that's not what's happening. The act is completely being ignored as if it doesn't exist. And people are telling me that, oh, well, we're a federal agency and we have no say on the state in this matter, which just shows that you do have a say if according to the class I'm taking, you do. So I messaged Ron DeSantis a few days ago, knowing that that actually puts me in possibility of being retaliated against by any bullies who have power over my area. And I know that, but this is important. Um, as far as I know, currently watching everything get drained and destroyed, I mean, you don't know. I might be the person who has the very last Okefinensis pitcher plant in my area because I have one. I mean, the thing is, though, I bought that one with the intention of planting it, but I've seen them, and you know, uh, there's the fact that the bats that live in the native palm tree for my area are also I can't remember if they're watched or endangered, but they're not doing so hot. Um, then there's those turtles. Uh, the silver palmetto, of which I have one growing in my yard, is becoming rare. Like they're really, but you can buy those at nurseries, so that's fine. It's like, yes, but in the wild, it's two different things. I haven't heard a bobwhite quail in that area in years, and that breaks my heart. Used to be able to just listen to them go, Bob White, Bob White. Uh, and there's development, and oh, well, people have got to live places, and you hear this, and the houses that are getting put up, locals are complaining that these houses are not affordable, which that goes into another act that's actually got a precedent in the Supreme Court about how, yes, housing is allowed, but when it's all unaffordable housing and unreasonably priced housing, then there's a line that, there's actually that's actually a precedent to be used to stop, because it's like this development is not actually for the greater good of the community. Um, and so there's that. Uh, knowing that there was areas, from what I've been told, and I've driven by the areas, they're not there anymore, that were protected, that were not supposed to be developed, that have been developed. And when the developers come in, they don't even try to like keep trees or anything, which I feel like one way to stem some of this problem and our need to expand as people would be to actually have it so that when you develop a property, if there's trees of a size or whatever, um, keep them. One tree is not going to take up half an acre, and if it is, then you need to leave it. Uh, you know, instead of raising everything flat and then bringing in invasive trees. There are so many ways that we as humans could live in harmony with the environment and not put things at risk. It's unreal. Instead of all this talk about 15-minute cities and forcing everybody into apartments and all this talk that I've come across in the past couple of years, there's just so many ways, and become stewards of your land. Um, you know, uh, and I would rather us do it voluntarily, to be honest. There's a place in Florida. It's a gated community, but it's called the Plantation, and I'm given to understand that it's actually based on what used to be a plantation in the area, but it's called the Plantation, and it's you have to be of a certain financial bracket to live there. And I have actually got to go back there. I'm not gonna, and they have like these strict building codes. You can only have certain colors on your houses. But the thing is, if there's like a tree and it's growing and you want to build a house and you're not allowed to cut that tree, there are people that have built their houses so that the tree is like growing through the house, and it looks really nice. It looks really nice. Because they're one, they're they're trying to keep the environment there and kind of almost be stewards of the land. And I've always loved how it looked back there. I just have never loved the lack of freedom. Isn't it amazing how the more money you get, the less freedom you want? Anyway, so, but according to the Endangered Species Act that I have learned so far, what's going on around my house is wrong. And getting told that, well, we have no say in what someone can do on their land in regards to this, wetlands that's being drained, and the indirect causation of a take of endangered species, which may or may not have been studied. There may or may not be a study saying, hey, yes. I mean, the land that held most of the pitcher plants, which by the way is for sale and it's around the corner of my house. And if I had the money, I'd buy it in a heartbeat. I would buy it in a heartbeat and add it to the preserve, and I would walk it like I used to do as a kid and pray to God I could see if there's pitcher plants there. A lot of it was flattened and turned into for cattle, but some of it was a tree farm. And they've got a big old fence, and the front is still the way it always has been. So they kept a lot of the nature there. And God, I wish I could afford that property. I think I would feel better about what's going on if I could just buy that property and other properties around my mom and dad's house that I am very aware are wetlands and have a lot of the endangered species. If I could just get my hands on them and purchase them so that I could preserve that, at least that area, I think I'd feel better and not be so depressed about all of this, because I cry a lot about it. Um, but anyway, yeah. Some of it's direct causation, takes of endangered species, and we're not through going through the Endangered Species Act yet. But I do know that there needed to be an EIS, an environmental impact survey or study. I can't remember if it's, I'm pretty sure it's survey. But the fact that with someone standing there and saying, hey, protected turtle nesting ground right there, you building road. And the guy said, I see no reason for us not to rezone and build that road. That was a complete ignorance of the law or disregard of the law. And the fact that I've got people in the agencies telling me we have no jurisdiction when that act specifically states that there is a jurisdiction, that's an ignorance or a disregard of the law. And this is something that the area needs lawyers. It needs well, God, I need a lawyer for a lot of things, don't I? I really should have just went to law school, I guess. Because it looks like, because, you can't just find lawyers on the street like you can in the movies. It's got to be somebody who cares and is willing to work pro bono at this point, I think. The environmental person who presented about the canopies mentioned that the situation really needed a lawyer to push back to get the act enacted and force. Part of the position of the Endangered Species Act was talking about how in building if you provide measures to protect the environment, and there's a built housing a housing development that they're like, oh, we've done this in this area and we've got this nature area. Well, I've been out there, and their idea of a nature area is cleared under the trees and walking areas, and it's just got some trees. I didn't really get a better look if they've got a preserve area. I did not see it, and a preserve area needs underbrush. For example, in the where on my Firefly Preserve property, we didn't rake. Now, I'm gonna do more research about that, but the reason why I didn't rake is because I want the fireflies and other endangered and underwatch insects that my area does have places to nest and burrow and propagate. And when you keep the brush cleared constantly, you do not allow for that. And let me bring up again how this past Firefly season, it was all over Facebook. I mean, all these different forums. I mean, all a whole, a lot of people noticed, wait a minute, where are the fireflies? And the response is, you killed them. You killed them by keeping everything raked and mowed and cleared and mowing constantly. You can landscape so that you can have your patch of grass, but also allow the animals to live with you and have it look beautiful and have less maintenance problems too. So I let the leaf stay, even though that annoys my neighbors. Because, I apparently have the kind of neighbors of, oh my God, global warming, oh my God, nature, oh my God, let's cut down your trees. Uh, so Mm, yeah. Or just someone I know personally, she wants her yard perfectly manicured and it's just grass and she doesn't even use it. It's just there. And but there are fireflies, she tells me. She's got fireflies in her yet. Oh, they'll always be there because they'll grow in my neighbor's yard or they'll, it's like, no, they won't always be there with that attitude because sooner or later everyone around you is going to come in with that attitude and then there'll be no place left for your fireflies to breed and then your fireflies will go away. And what's interesting about the firefly is every region has a different species. So when your fireflies are gone, don't think they're just growing several, the next county over because they may not be. There's that many species. So, or there were because people are noticing there are no fireflies. So there are ways, and there are ways that don't take half as much work as manicuring a straight grass flat piece of green. I mean, shoot, get some astroturf if you're gonna be like that. But anyway, so the Endangered Species Act. That's what I've learned so far, and it's not pretty. And if I were a multimillionaire, I'd be looking for a environmental lawyer because so far everything I've seen, oh, we've presented areas to preserve nature and but we're going to drain this wetland. So they've got areas that may or may not be preserved, but they're draining everything. That's literally changing the landscape, and that's indirect causation. And it's just basically overdevelopment. It's literally overdevelopment. There's no getting around it. That's enough rambling at 22 in the morning. Well, 22 minutes. I think my medicine kicked in enough. I can try to sleep again, maybe. Yay. Figure out how to stop this again.